Hello Windy City travelers and explorers, it's Andy, tour guide with Free Tours by Foot, and today we're visiting Chicago's largest and one of its oldest cemeteries, Rosehill. I'm filming this just ahead of Memorial Day, and Rosehill Cemetery here in Lincoln Square actually has quite a few ties to the American Civil War. Just inside this beautiful gated entrance, which was built by architect William W. Boyington, by the way, in 1864. If you've ever walked down the Magnificent Mile and seen the historic water tower that survived the Great Chicago Fire, it's the same person. So this entrance, it was built in that same Gothic style, but as you can see, it has even more of a castle vibe than the water tower. So we're going to take a look at the dedications and monuments and talk about the state of Illinois' role in the Civil War. And then I'm also going to take the time to show you just a few of the Chicago legends who are buried here on this cemetery's east side. That would include Reinhard Schwimmer, a victim of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. We're going to look at George Bangs and George Buchanan Armstrong's monuments and well. They were essentially the founders of the modern mail system, and maybe one or two more. So I'll tell you their stories as we pay our respects at their gravesite. Let's go inside. Giving you one more look at the Boyington Castle. At the entrance here, you can drive your car, you can ride your bike, you can walk like we are today. It's absolutely beautiful. And you'll see right as you enter, there's actually quite a bit of Chicago history here, but we're going to focus just on the Civil War section to our left. The first thing you see is this tall tombstone for General Ransom. This was added and dedicated in 1831, so there is a little bit of wear on this one. It's shrouded up at the top. This is the largest monument for any of the generals of the Civil War. And then as we keep going, we're going to see where the Union soldiers are laid to rest. Being Memorial Day weekend, they have all of the flags fresh out here as well. Now, the state of Illinois slogan is the land of Lincoln, and that is, of course, after the 16th U.S. President Abraham Lincoln, whose election in 1860 led to 7 states initially seceding from the Union, starting with South Carolina, and then eventually that devolved into what became the American Civil War when the first shots were fired at Fort Sumter 1 year later in 1861. And Illinois had a pretty heavy hand in those battles. There were no battles in the state of Illinois, but there were quite a few staging grounds here, and we are known to have a pretty active volunteer rate as well. We're going to get up close and personal to that monument that greets you. But first, I just want to step on the grass real quick. I always hate walking on grass in cemeteries. They do such a nice job of keeping up with everything, but there's an artillery monument here. And then this big guy here is about 30 feet tall. It's a limestone pole with a marble Union soldier on top, and as you get close you can actually see there's some really nice detail in its base for the 4 branches of the army at the time. So here you're seeing the cavalry, and then just around the bush we'll get a look at, I believe it's the artillery is next. The artillery, yeah, with the cannon. And then the Navy. And then, of course, last but not least, the infantry as well. Now, Chicago specifically during the Civil War is infamous for having one of the largest prisoner camps, Camp Douglas, which held more than 26,000 Confederate soldiers who were captured in battle. And we're infamous because our unsanitary conditions led to about 4,000 of those prisoners dying at Camp Douglas. So you can learn a lot more about that, but it's a pretty dark spot on our history books. This is the monument of Battery A we're looking at here. Again, just a really beautiful way to commemorate the lives that were lost and the sacrifices that were made at the time. You can see some bees, hopefully not hornets, have moved in. There's a little nest there. It doesn't seem to be too active. I'm sure we'll get that taken care of. Now, hidden in plain sight here as we look at all of our Civil War era is actually a separate very important gentleman's grave from American history. This would be George Buchanan Armstrong. And this marker here actually tells us a lot about what he did for the United States. While he was the assistant to the postmaster of Chicago in 1864, he made the suggestion that the mail service should be utilizing the railway to get mail to people faster than the horses at the time, horse and carriage that was being used. So he is the father of the railway mail service, which is pretty incredible. We're actually going to look next at a gentleman's tombstone, which is my favorite tombstone in the entire cemetery, George Bang, and we're going to see how he took George Buchanan's idea and ran with it full steam ahead. So we will go there next. Now, I mentioned we are only traveling along the east side of the cemetery. It's 350 acres, so it's massive. There's just no way to do it in one single virtual tour, so we're going to hopefully break that up. You'll have to leave me a comment below if you want a part 2. We do have several famous legendary Chicago names here. Oscar Mayer of hot dog and bologna fame. We've got Ignaz Schwinn of the Schwinn bikes. Montgomery Ward, Leo Burnett, a ton. So you'll just have to let me know in the comments if you want more of that. If you're enjoying this video, it would mean the world to me if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you can hit that thumbs up and like it too, that helps other people find us. Free Tours by Foot offers pay-what-you-like walking tours all over the city of Chicago, as well as cities around the world. So check us out using the link in the description. When you're ready to plan your next travel, we'll be here. We are walking up to another monument. It's actually very similar to the one we just saw with the Union soldier. We put in a second one shortly after to commemorate our volunteer firefighters here in Chicago. Now, when you see firefighters in Chicago, you usually think that's tied to the Great Chicago Fire. This one, as far as I can tell, is not. It's actually just dedicated to all volunteer firefighters. So you can see here that this was first put here in 1864. And I like it because it's pinned on all four corners with these concrete firefighter hats. And they've also taken the time to put in a little, I think, a bit comical detail here, which are the fire hydrant valves, or the caps. I don't know what those are called. I would call those caps. You can see someone put a little statue there as well. So I think these are just a nice detail to this sculpture. And this monument also has some nice detail pre-fire truck of the old wagons that the firefighters would use. Alright, now our next stop is a bit of a walk, and I learned from our Wizard of Oz virtual tour that you guys don't like to watch me walk, so I have sped up the path and we will get here much faster. And we are now at our next spot. We're walking up to what looks like a tree. And as I mentioned, this is my favorite gravesite because as we get to it, you see this is not a tree at all. This is all one piece. It is all a grave marker for none other than George Bang's father of fast mail. So in 1875, while George Bangs was in the role of General Superintendent of the Railway Mail Service, he created dedicated special trains that were sole purpose was to travel between major cities overnight and delivering mail pretty much instantly. So some of these trains would travel over 900 miles in one night to get the mail. That was just an unheard of speed at the time. So they go between New York City and Chicago, and I just think this is such a nice tribute to him to have the tree that leads to the tunnel and the train car coming out of the tunnel. I could just look at this detail for a very long time. It's just absolutely beautiful. And like I said, that is a really nice tie how George Bangs took what George Armstrong had done about 10 years prior and just revolutionized it once more. Now, our next spot we're going to, I think, will be a favorite of the video. It is a victim of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and you will see that it is not. We are leaving monument and tombstone land and going to good old-fashioned gravestones. So we're going to the far corner, the northeast corner of Rosehill Cemetery. Ah, I spotted you. Hello. I knew you were in here. Have a nice day. And you can see it gets much grassier over here, and it will actually take me a moment to find our next grave site. So give me a moment. There he is, Dr. Reinhard Schwimmer, an optometrist with no criminal record but still widely noted to be involved with gang-related activity, became one of 7 men to be victims in the Valentine's Day Massacre on February 14th, 1929. The north side of Chicago and pretty much the whole nation was shook when our chief gangster Al Capone, who was notoriously trying to control all of the vices like gambling and bootleg alcohol and prostitution during the second half of the 1920s, allegedly had 7 men assassinated who were all tied to one of his rival gang leaders, George Bugs Moran. This is an unsolved crime. No one's ever been officially pinned to it. It's one of our nation's biggest, but it is known and it's been decided that gunmen disguised as police officers entered a garage that day, lined up these men in a fake arrest, and then fired something like 70 rounds of ammunition into them and the wall behind them. And this is known as the climax of the gangster era of Chicago, but it's also widely noted as the beginning of the fall of Al Capone, because this was seen as such a violent crime in the United States that finally citizens were getting so concerned that the FBI did have to step in. A literal target was put on Al Capone's back at this point, and then from there everything just kind of went downhill for him, leading to his eventual arrest and incarceration. That is all the time we have today. Thank you again for watching. Please make sure you're subscribed to the Free Tourist by Foot Chicago channel. Leave me a comment if you want to explore more cemeteries, or specifically the west side of Rosehill. And make sure you don't miss any of our tours or our travel tip videos. If you'd like to watch more tours, you can do that right now. And there are some helpful links in the description below, including a link to tip your guide. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.